Welcome to day 4 of our Irish road trip. We woke on our second day in Galway at Avoca House Bed and Breakfast, where we were staying. We had a quick breakfast and then had planned on heading out to the cliffs of Moher. But just as we were getting ready to pull out of our parking space, our host Kathleen came running out. Her husband Peter had just heard the weather report and suggested that we swap our day at Cliffs of Moher for a day in Connemara, since it looked like the cliffs were going to be socked in with rain and fog. It was a good call. The cloudy, foggy day gave a mystical mood to the mountains of Connemara. After fighting Monday morning traffic getting out of Galway, we headed northwest on N59. After getting away from all those cars, Chris was ready for a little break, so we stopped in the picturesque village of Oughterard. I was ready for another cup of coffee, and we found a place called My Little Flower Coffee. I could smell the fresh paint, and it turned out they'd been open less than 2 weeks. I started chatting with the owner, a retired pro rugby player named Matt Healy. In addition to customized drinks, he also serves locally made fresh pastries. He makes a mean latte. He told me he's hoping to really build a sense of community in his little shop. And if his Facebook page is any indicator, seems like he's getting the job done. If you happen to be in the area, stop by and check it out for yourself. So we were back on the road and headed for Connemara when we saw a road sign we were unfamiliar with. What the heck is this? Oh, it means warning, and this warning is for high water. So on these little windy roads, to remember to stay on the left, you just get behind one of these big... We're starting to get into some of the smaller mountains here. The fog over the mountains here is just incredibly beautiful. It has a very magical look to it. And we just passed a green sign that said An Gaeltacht. That means that this is an area where native Irish is still spoken as an everyday language. There are pockets of it here and there throughout the country. One of the driving hazards out in this part of the country is sheep. And you notice that sheep had a big red splotch on him. He has not been injured. That's the way the farmers mark their sheep so that they can tell theirs from their neighbors with different colors. And they are just everywhere. They lie all over the side of the road. They walk across the road. As you can see, this car is having to kind of stay away from them as much as he can. So we're stopping here at Lough Inagh, which is a lake that runs along the side of the road that we're on. The German tour bus that was ahead of us has stopped here as well. There's a nice place to pull off the road and get out and take some pictures and see things. It's really beautiful here. Another thing that they have here is peat bogs, the organic matter that builds up and decays over time. They used to use it for heating and cooking. They would dig it out like logs, and you can see there where the peat was cut out of the side there in rows. It's not used much anymore. If you saw our video on the castle, you would have seen a bucket of peat logs there. Oh, there's a blue sheep. And we finally arrived at Kylemore Abbey. So Kylemore Abbey is currently a Benedictine monastery, and you'll hear the bells chiming in just a minute here. It was built in 1868 as a 1,000-acre estate and castle by Mitchell Henry, of Manchester, England, who was a doctor, and he built it for his Irish-born wife, Margaret. Unfortunately, Margaret died just 3 years later at the age of 45. So in 1903, it was sold to the Duke and Duchess of Manchester, and the Duchess of Manchester was originally from Cincinnati, Ohio, USA. That's another story. Since 1920, the Benedictine sisters have used it as an abbey and an international boarding school for girls, which closed in 2010. In this picture of the mountain behind the monastery, you see a tiny white dot. That is a statue of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. It's actually 10 feet tall, and guided hikes can be arranged to go up and see it. This is the view from the top. Because we had just missed the tour of the inside of the abbey and had limited time, we opted to just see the grounds and the outside of the abbey, as well as the walled Victorian garden. We took the half-mile walk up to the walled garden rather than ride the bus. It was a nice day, and we got to see the beautiful forest, a shrine, and a small waterfall. The walled Victorian garden covers 6 acres and includes formal floral plantings, as well as vegetable and herb gardens. There's the glass house, and there are the vegetable gardens. It's a stunning setting. Here we have some of the outbuildings. There's also a head gardener's cottage. The grounds also include a wild playground, a neo-Gothic church, a mausoleum, 2 restaurants, and a gift shop, as well as a stable with Connemara ponies and pigs. The loch is so serene and beautiful, and we could have stayed all day, but we needed to get to Connemara National Park. After stopping at the Visitors Center at the National Park, we took a trail up and took a look at the Connemara ponies, a pony with an interesting history. A native breed unique to Ireland, in 795 AD, the Vikings brought equines over. Then in 1588, the Spanish Armada ran aground and set their Andalusian horses loose. They then bred with the wild Scandinavian ponies and formed the Connemaras, one of the larger pony breeds, known to be good-natured and hard-working. In 1923, the Connemara Breeders' Society was founded to keep the bloodline pure. There are no longer any wild ponies in the park. The ones that are there are domesticated. There's also a herd at Kylemore Abbey. We also saw donkeys and a goat while we were there that day. We had talked to a woman in the Visitors Center who made recommendations given the amount of time we had to spend as far as an appropriate hike. We ended up taking the Lower Diamond Trail that goes up Diamond Hill, so called because of the quartz in it. It sparkles in the sun like diamonds. We discovered that the farther up the hill you went, the better the views got. At this point, we could see the North Atlantic. The views were stunning. We met a couple of young men who were hiking who were kind enough to take some photos for us. It gave you a sense of the land just going on forever, like you could see to the ends of the earth. The surfaces on the trail ranged from pavement to stones to rocks to a boardwalk that went over the bog. we reached the point where our lower Diamond Hill Trail intersected with the upper Diamond Hill Trail. We did the blue one, the red one was all the way to the top. But that would have to wait for another time. What a view. They're standing next to the road. Gotta watch out for them. It was great to look for miles and miles, not see a house, a car, or another person. But it was time to return to Galway, back through Connemara, the same way we had come. They're everywhere. Back in the Latin Quarter, we stopped in at Tignachten because we'd heard that they had authentic Irish snugs, and we wanted to check them out. Ireland. Sláinte.
Sláinte.
We'll give you a peek at the snug. Now, snooks used to be where women would come to drink because they weren't allowed to drink at the bar. Okay. Also, we've heard that that's where the parish priest used to come and drink because people wouldn't see him drinking there. And also, there were dowries and marriages arranged by parents in the snooks. So, we're just drinking.
Sláinte.
Sláinte. By then, we were ready for dinner, so we stopped in at McDonough's, an establishment in Galway since 1902. They offer 6 different kinds of fish, in addition to accompaniments and fresh oysters.
So how is it?
I'm happy.
Oh, look at those fries too. Chips. Chips look great. Chips look great. Still waiting on our raw oysters.
The Galway Bay oysters were the freshest I've had in my life.
Yum.
We walked back to Ayr Square to the bus stop, through the Galway streets that were just as lively after dark as they were during the daytime. And thus ended our 4th day in Ireland. Thanks so much for watching this week's video. We hope you enjoyed it. We publish a new video every Wednesday.
So, if you'd like to watch more of our videos, press this button over here. And if you'd like to subscribe, press this button with our faces on it. Thank you.
We'll see you next week.